I've been getting a lot of questions in my comments of my videos in Reddit, LinkedIn, and so on that look something like this. I wanted to solve that eternal question that you might have and propose to you the best certification that I think you should get in order to break into the industry, in order to break into IT and information security GRC. And I'm not going to only tell you, I'm also going to show you so we can see together what it looks like and what it includes, what benefits it will get you, and I will also share with you some of the drawbacks so you can consider them when choosing whether you should go for that certification or not. My name is Yanis, former lawyer turned IT GRC expert. Let's go. A while ago, I made a video about certifications, how important I think they are, and I think they're very important in order to break into IT GRC, what I think about them in general. You can find this video above my head and I will link it also in the description. And this video seems to have stirred some discussion and has caused the launch of a lot of questions asking, okay, which certification do I get in order to join the IT GRC club? What do I need to do? And my answer to this is going to be the Governance, Risk and Compliance Certification, or CGRC by ISC2. If I started over as a lawyer back then, starting in ITGRC or considering starting in ITGRC, I would pick that certification. And in this video, like I said, I'm gonna show you why, and I'm also gonna show you the pros and cons so you can make a conscious decision, should you get it or skip it. So stick around, we'll go through everything that needs to be said about the CGRC certification. But before we do that, if you like this video, hit a like, it's easy, it's free, and subscribe to the ITGRC Hero. I would massively appreciate it. Make the community grow, let's grow together. We share useful information and we interact with each other meaningfully. So do that, I would highly appreciate that. So I am currently in the official website of the CGRC certification within the ISC2 area and platform. You can see here CGRC certification exam outline. This is what I want to show you in order to prove that this certification is a very good starting point because it gives a very good overview of everything about IT GRC. So if I scroll down a bit, yes, you have some details about CGRC. I will link, by the way, all of those resources down below so you can have a look and decide for yourself if this is the right fit for you to equip yourself with the tool you need in order to get into ITGRC. But in any case, you can see here some details about the certification itself and the topics covered here. You can see it starts with security and privacy governance, risk management and compliance, scope of the system, then selection and approval of framework security and privacy controls, implementation of security and privacy controls, assessment, audit of security and privacy controls, system compliance, and then compliance maintenance. These are the domains of, and if we go down a bit further, we can see the breakdown of the domains in more detail. Here you can see how much each domain scores in the exam. This is not super important right now, but of course, come the exam time and period, you know where to focus your time and your energy the most. But either way, what I want to show you, what I want to prove to you is the domain breakdown and to show you why this certification covers governance, risk management, and compliance in a holistic way that makes sense. By the way, I'm not sponsored by ISC2. I'm not affiliated with them other than the fact that I am a member and I maintain a CISSP certification with them. Other than that, I have no other affiliation with them. I trust them and I support their work. They are a professional network, but that's the disclaimer that I want to make. But either way, if we start with domain 1, security and privacy governance, risk management and compliance program, and if we expand this, we see demonstrate knowledge in security and privacy governance, risk management and compliance. I won't go into the details here, but these are the main or the subdomains, I would say, of domain 1. And then demonstrate knowledge in security and privacy governance, risk management and compliance program processes, demonstrate knowledge of compliance frameworks, regulations, privacy and security requirements. So this is governance. This is the starting point of a good governance structure. Of course, it targets all three areas, but then you can see that it starts with also the frameworks that you need to know, the regulations, privacy and security requirements. This is more on the governance side. What do we need to comply with? What is important in order to have a proper information security management system in place. This teaches you exactly that. Scrolling down to the scope of the system, scoping is important, of course, because we need to know what is in scope of our efforts. Otherwise, what we don't know, we cannot protect. Description of the system, and then determination of the system compliance that is required. We need to protect the system, we need to know what the system is, and then we need to know what controls we need to apply in order to protect it. That's super important as well. Then we go further into the selection and approval of the framework, security and privacy controls. Once again, we identify and document baseline and inherited controls, and then we select and tailor controls. This is the intersection between governance and risk management. You need to know what you are governing, you need to know your assets, and then you need to know what controls you need to put in place that are tailored to that system, to that application, to that environment, in order to make it work effectively, in order to make it work securely. So this is part of that domain that is addressed in this particular section. Then the implementation of security and privacy controls as connected to the previous domain that has to do with identification and documentation of the baseline and the selection of and tailoring of controls. We have the development of the implementation strategy, then we have the implementation of the controls, and then lastly, the documentation of control implementation. So we go one step further and we define exactly what strategy we need to follow to apply the controls we selected based on the scoping, and then of course to document what controls we need to put in place, because it's one thing to put them in place and another thing to document it so that you can prove to someone outside your organization that, hey, I did it and I put the controls in place. By the way, if anytime you think that these terms and definitions of governance, risk and compliance do not make much sense, I made a full video talking very specifically about what governance, risk management and compliance is in the context of information technology, IT. That video you can find in the description of this video, and it's going to give you all the information you need about IT GRC. But let's get going, and I will show you the rest of the domains, and then I will explain exactly how these all fit together. The fifth domain has to do with the assessment and auditing of security and privacy controls. So this is the time where we jump from applying the controls into compliance and making sure that the controls actually are there and they're working properly. So we are talking about preparation for assessment or audit. We have conduct of the assessment and audit itself, performing the audit, prepare the initial assessment and audit report, and then we have reviewing the initial assessment audit report, developing final assessment audit reports, and then developing a risk response plan. All of these are very important because we know the standing of the controls that we have in place. If you don't know what you have, you cannot measure it, you cannot track it, you cannot be sure that it's working effectively. And this is exactly what this particular domain focuses on, and it does it in a way that is holistic, starting from implementing to documenting and then monitoring and providing the risk response plan that is the last step in this process, and then the report that is generated to prove that the controls either are there or are not there. Then system compliance is next. We can see here that this domain is all about reviewing and submitting security and privacy documents, determining system risk posture, and then documenting system compliance. Again, this is more about the compliance piece. How do we ensure that the controls we have established and the system itself is compliant? This is the stage where the certification itself teaches us how to do all those activities in order to ensure that the controls are functioning, are properly applied, and the system is then, at the end of the day, safe and secure, right? This is the gist of this domain. And then lastly, we have the compliance maintenance, equally important as everything else. We start with performing system change management. Change management obviously is very important. Anytime you want to apply a change, you need to go through a particular process, right? Changes can break things if they're not monitored, if they're not applied properly. So change management in this scenario, in this context, is extremely important. Then we perform the ongoing compliance activities based on requirements. So this is part of the recurring evaluation. Everything we talked about is a recurring process. It's not a one-off activity. It's a set of activities that are performed periodically over an extended period of time to prove continuous compliance. It's not a one-time exercise, and that's very important to keep in mind. Then engage in audit activities based on compliance requirements. Here we are talking more about how we ensure that we audit our systems based on what we need, based on what our requirements for that particular system application might be. This is of course, something that we need to define. We need to define it from the senior management that we have in our company, but we need to know the process and the steps we need to take in order to achieve this particular compliance. And then lastly, of course, as in every system in life in general, is the decommissioning, is the end of life of the system when applicable. So how do we decommission a system properly? How do we remove it from operations, and how do we have it decommissioned? How we document said decommissioning? So this is the breakdown of the coverage of the domains. The gist of it is that it covers all of the facets of the GRC triad. So we start with governance, as we saw in the first couple domains, and then we go more into risk management, tailoring the controls and performing proper risk management of the implementation of the controls. And then lastly, we have the compliance, which is all about preparing for the audit, making sure that we have the audit reports available. We then do the documentation of the findings and of the audits. And then lastly, we do change management, and we finalize with the decommissioning of the system when it comes to that. So extremely wide, extremely useful to get a gist of how is GRC handled? What do we need to do in order to say, yes, we have a good posture, a good GRC structure, we know what we are talking about, and we are able to apply GRC in practice. This is going to show you how to do it. If you're interested in joining the IT GRC community and world, or if you want to use something as a foundation to get a better understanding of the IT GRC area, then I created a free IT GRC preparedness checklist that you will find, again, in the description of this video. You can download it, you can view it, and that will help you either put structure on your own company, on your own organization, in terms of your IT GRC, what to look for governance, risk management, and compliance, or it will also give you a better overview of what IT GRC key activities are like, and that will enable you to become a better IT GRC professional. So check the description below. It's a free downloadable. You can download it and use it as you wish. Now let's jump straight into the positives and the negatives. The first positive, I mentioned it already, it's exactly this coverage that I talked about. It's very specific to the GRC area. It's very encompassing. It's a very detailed certification. Once you get that certification, you won't have any questions about the GRC function, how it works, what it is, what needs to be done in each of those three areas of governance, risk management, and compliance. You know everything you need to know in order to go out there and start fixing issues, start implementing controls, and improving systems. The other positive that I show you on the screen right now is exactly the implementation of AI incorporated in CGRC domains. IC2 and CGRC takes AI into account, and it ensures that every step that is covered in this certification has AI components evaluated as well. So it's a very future-proof certification that will last you a long time because AI is considered by design, let's say. So this is another positive thing. The other positives that I can mention here is the fact that this certification is coming from a certification body that is very, very well recognized. They have a lot of certifications that they offer depending on the situation, on your experience, and what you want to be proficient at. IC2 is a very well recognized organization, and their certifications are very, very well sought after and very valuable for anybody who has them. The other benefit, of course, and I would take this with a grain of salt, is the salary. Don't depend on what ISC2 tells you about the salary you would have if you had the CGRC. I don't think that those numbers are extremely realistic for a professional that only has CGRC and not much else. I think these amounts are a bit stretched, for a lack of a better word, but it's at least an indication that, if you have that certification, I would assume that you could easily make something between 60 to 80,000 euros or dollars or whatever currency relates to that range. You could easily make that amount. So this is something that I think is more or less a valid point. You have a certification, you prove to the world that you did your study, that somebody validated your knowledge and your effort, and they gave you a stamp of approval that you passed a particular certification exam and you got that actual certificate. This is the proof, and this is the value of this particular certification. If you feel like you have more questions, if you want to talk to someone, if you want to get thoughts on topics of IT governance, risk management, and compliance, how to break into the industry, how to grow your career in IT GRC, like I did, starting as a lawyer and now becoming an IT GRC expert and leader, I want to help out. I am creating those videos, but I also want to help out if you need more personalized help. If you wish to have that, I will link below my LinkedIn details. You can reach out to me, you can connect with me, and you can DM me, and we can have an interaction. You can ask me anything you want about your challenges, your struggles, your career opportunities, your questions about IT GRC. Feel free to reach out, and I will definitely react to every single connect request that I receive. So these are the biggest benefits you will immediately receive after obtaining the CGRC certification. As I said, very beginner friendly and very, very sought after. IC2 is very well recognized, and the money is also going to be quite satisfactory, I would say. But of course, there's also some drawbacks. There's some negatives as well. The first one that I can mention is the fact that this certification is quite new. It replaced CAP or CAP, which was their previous certification. However, since this is a newer certification, there's not that many resources out there and no official study guide, for example, that can guide you through the process. There's some other resources out there, some trainings and flashcards and bootcamps. However, there's no actual official study guide, so that may make studying a bit more difficult. So I think this is a bit of a negative. It's not going to be as easy to study for it because there's no clear resource because it's so new. So that's something you need to take into account if you decide to go for that certification. And the other two negatives that are two in one, I would say, is one is the price. I would consider it a bit pricey for someone who is joining the IT GRC area and wants to be educated in GRC topics. You can see here that CGRC is priced at $600 or euros, almost the same amount. So I would consider it a bit pricey for an entry-level certification, considering also the fact that other certifications from IC2 are priced at the same almost amount, apart from CISSP, which is a bit higher. But this might be a bit of a deterrent, especially for a newcomer. The other element that I consider a drawback for a beginner is the fact that in order to be certified with CGRC, you need to have 2 years of experience in one or more of the domains covered. So this assumes that you have some experience and you're not a total beginner. This is something to keep into account. However, what you can do is you can go for the designation of an associate of the ISC2. You can also see it mentioned right here, where you actually can pass the exam without having the experience, and then as soon as you get the actual experience, you can also then get officially certified. But until then, you're not certified. So keep that into account. I would say that these are the biggest drawbacks. However, if you're just starting out and you want to have a very valid and a very strong tool in your arsenal in order to prove to potential recruiters, to your colleagues, to your manager that, I have what it takes. I am able to take IT GRC work and perform relevant activities in a good way, I think the CGRC from IC2 is the best certification you can get to achieve exactly that. So the CGRC is a fantastic beginner certification for you that wants to join the IT and information security governance, risk and compliance field. However, if you are looking for something a bit more advanced and a bit more recognized even, I would recommend you look at CISM, CISA, and CRISC. All of those are provided by ISACA. If you want me, I can make a video about those as well, so you can leave a comment down below and I will make a video for those certifications as well. If you are looking for something a bit more technical and honestly a bit more challenging as well, I would recommend you have a look at the CISSP. The CISSP is also provided by ISC2. It's a very well recognized certification, maybe the most well recognized certification out there in terms of IT and information security. I would definitely consider it if I was a bit more advanced, and I have actually obtained that certification. I made a video about the CISSP. You can find it above my head again and in the description down below. In this video as well, I have added some affiliate links that you can use to access some of the resources I used to pass the CISSP. Affiliate links mean that you don't get charged extra, you just use it, and then as soon as you use the link, I get a very small commission from that purchase as a thank you for my contribution to you getting educated and hopefully passing the CISSP or any other certification. I will make more certification videos as we go along. And now I want to know your thoughts. Which certification do you want me to cover next? Do you want me to go through the CISM, the CRISC, the CISA that I mentioned earlier, or some other certification? Just drop it in the comments down below. I read all of them, I respond to all of them, and I will consider them in order to make my next video, so your opinion definitely matters. So that was it. Thank you so much for watching. I immensely appreciate it. I immensely appreciate you sticking around until the end. If you want, you can check my other videos that you will find in the end screen. Those will answer some of your questions and provide you some valuable insights. And until next time, take care.